Welcome to another edition of the Musicbi show, where we watch me learn how to make some music. This is episode 3, so hopefully by episode 100, I'll be making some bang as an upgrade from GarageBand. But you know, we gotta start somewhere, and some people make some hits from GarageBand. So let's, for a recap, let's see what. Let's change this down a little bit. I made yesterday, and see how we can get it in the top 10.
This is me just learning a song. 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 When I get super funky on the beat, so unique, I'll be like, yo, Musicbi, stomping your feet, stomping your rice, nori, and the spam, man. Aiming song, yes I am.
So obviously, top 10 Billboard number 100 hit right there. But let's see if I can crank out another one. So we ended yesterday on making some samples, and so the next video we have is importing audio. So let's see what this MFA has to say. Just kidding, you're not an MFA. You seem like a really cool dude.
A look at how we can use the sampler instrument in the previous video. In this video, I'm going to show you how you can download samples from the internet all on your phone and then load them into the sampler and create your own unique software instruments. I'm a big fan of this website. It's called freesound.org, and you need to sign up for an account. It's all free, no strings attached. It's a very nice community of people who record sounds and upload them, and the majority of them are Creative Commons, which means you can use them completely free of copyright with no problems at all. So I'm on the home screen of freesound.org, and I'm going to search for something like synth note. I'm going to try and just get a single note. And you can have a lot of fun just looking through all the samples that are on here. There are millions of uploaded sounds. So what I'm looking for is just a single hit. Let's have a listen to this one here. That's a piano sort of sound. Let's have a listen to this one. Okay.
Fucking hurt my ears,
so
bro. What are you talking about,
nice
Willis?
buzzy
what are you talking about,
synthetic
man?
sound there. And you can have a look down here and it will show you. Sometimes they will list the name of the instrument that they sampled. In this case, it looks like they've created it with some kind of software. And you'll see here on the right-hand side that this is a Creative Commons sound, so we are free to use it. When I hit download right here, it will ask me to download that, and I'm going to say, I'm just going to hit download. That's going to end up in the downloads folder of my Files app. So what I can do now, if I switch back to GarageBand and add a new track, I can select the sampler just like we did in the previous video. And instead of recording our own sample from this screen right here, I can select import.
Oh, you can import that bitch.
Now, if I look under my Files app, what I can do here is browse items from the Files app down the bottom. And then
I don't see import on the new one.
This is, you can even do that from your iCloud drive, but on my iPhone, I need to find under downloads, and it's this file right here, 441634 synth. So I'm going to select that, and there we go. So I'm going to hit the downward arrow here, which will load it into my sampler. And if I hit a note here.
Okay. Oh, there we go.
Now we have our own instrument.
Import.
Which is really, really fantastic because this is now our own custom sound that we sourced ourselves. And we have all the abilities to tune that and shape the...
Oh, there you go. That's kind of cool.
Under tune. I just want to check that, yes, a C is actually a C. Under the shape, which is the envelope, we have a very simple envelope here. You can't just do like a whole like sampler thing out to give it a bit of release. So after I hit the note, it will ring out. gives it a little bit of a tail to the sound. If I want this to come in a soft way, I can do this node here, which will add a bit of attack to it. We can also trim this and create it into a loop if we like. So if we hold our finger down, we can then create a chord. So this sounds a little bit like a video game, which is great. I love 8-bit music. You know, the Mario tune. There we go. And
Whoa,
if I
okay,
really
just
like
fucking
this
play
sound,
Mario?
I can go back to the smart controls there, and I can select my samples, and I can save this by going Add to Library, and I'll call it Nats Buzz Synth. Now I've got my own instrument there. So this is really great because if I go to the track view here, I have this instrument. This instrument here was a sample that I recorded from the previous video, but I can go into there and edit that. And using the smart controls, instead of using this, I can load that sample that I just, from my samples, that I just saved. So there we go, Nats Buzz Synth. And now that will replace the performance. It will replace the sound rather and keep the performance. Let's have a listen to that. So it's taken my previous performance and replaced the sound. So that is how you bring in external sounds and are able to sample them and use them in your own samples that I just saved. So there we go, Nats Buzz Synth. And now that will replace the performance. It will replace the sound. So it's taken my previous performance and replaced the sound.
Excuse me.
That is how you bring in external sounds and are able to sample them and use them in your own compositions.
On to the next video. We gotta admit though, this guy is pretty fire.
We've had a brief look at the track controls in some of the previous videos, but in this tutorial, we're going to have an in-depth look at what each item does in the track controls. Now we access the settings cog up the top right-hand corner, and we're going to select track controls. This will open up this menu to the left, this graphical user interface, which will change depending on which track we have selected. Under the top, we have the basic track settings, and this will give us the quantization, which we should already be familiar with if you've been doing the rest of this course. This will snap your notes on the software instruments to the nearest timing grid. We also have transposition, which isn't available if we go up to some of the smart instruments. But on a simple software instrument such as a sampler or a synth sound, let's have a look. So it's not on the smart bass, but if we select our simple synth sound, which is the keyboard instrument, we see that transposition appears again. That will give you the ability to move all of the notes on that particular track up or down in pitch by semitones or by octaves, which is 12 semitones.
That's kinda cool.
It's the same note, but higher, an octave higher. Let's have a listen to the instrument on this track. So if I change that via a semitone, that's no longer going to be matching the key of this song. That can be handy if all of your instruments are simple software instruments and you want to transpose the entire song. You can go through each one. I tend to use this mainly if I've recorded an instrument and I want it to be up an octave or down an octave.
Interesting. I gotta change
down an octave.
Pause this real quick. I gotta change my phone settings. So hold on. Hold your horses. Let's see. Going to settings, going to display and brightness, turning auto lock off so it doesn't turn black. Auto lock never. Get rid of that. And we back, baby. We back.
Would sound like this. So it's the same note, but an octave higher or an octave lower. We also have some extra recording settings. We've had a very brief look at this section. The merge recordings will allow you to basically loop record and add new notes into your performance. It'll keep your performance and it will just keep adding notes. This is very handy if you're creating a drum loop and you're playing it in. It will just keep adding them in. We also have this multi-take recordings right here. This will allow you to loop through your song and record different takes. So you can just keep jamming and you can go through 4 or 5 times and it will keep all 5 performances. You can then select the performance that you want to keep, and we'll have a look at that in a later video at how we actually do that. So I'm going to go back out. Those are the track settings. We also have the standard features that you find in every digital audio workstation, and these are vital to mixing your song, getting a nice balance. And we are fairly familiar with these. We have the track volume, so that will change the volume of the track you have selected. The track pan will put it to the left or the right speaker. This can be really good if you have lots of instruments and you want to pan some to the left, some to the right, and create a very nice stereo image in your mix, a nice wide mix. We also have the mute button, which will temporarily turn that track off and you won't hear anything. We also have the solo button right here, and you will only hear the sound that's on that track when it's selected. Let's go down to plugins and EQ. This is a macro view of the compressor and the equalizer. So up the top, we can give more compression or less compression. And then down the bottom, we have a very rudimentary equalizer. More treble, less treble, more bass, less bass. But these are actually macro controls, and we can fine tune the settings by clicking the plugins and EQ menu item. At the top, we have the compressor, and you'll see now that gives us all of the more fine-tuned details of a compressor. Now, I'm not really going to go into the topic of compression right here, but if you are familiar with compression, you can change the threshold. So as you pull that down, it will actually compress the signal more as the audio will go over that threshold. The compressor will kick in. We can change the ratio of the compression. The default is 2.5 to 1. The attack is how quick the compression kicks in once the sound goes over the threshold. And this is the makeup gain. We can add gain in after we've compressed the signal. The mix down the bottom is how much of the compressed signal you hear and how much of the original signal you hear. But if you don't know much about compression, you can use it to fatten up a sound or make it stand out a little bit more in the mix. So if you have something like a lead line or a kick drum, you can dial that up a bit and it will kind of sit on top of your mix a bit more. It'll stand out, it'll cut through. If you go too crazy with the compression, it can have the opposite effect and it can kind of suck the life out of the sound, and overly compressed sounds are not very nice to listen to, especially if they're real world instruments. So the compressor, this single macro slider, will actually change these settings in here. You can see the mix is now at 100%. If I slide that down here, no compression, you'll see now the mix is at basically nothing. So the same applies for the equalizer. We will collapse this compressor and now we'll have a look at the equalizer. If you've used GarageBand on the Mac, you might be familiar with this. This is a simplified version. This is called a parametric equalizer. It's basically used to change the tone of a sound. I'm going to quickly solo this track so we can only hear this sound. And I'm going to show you what you can achieve with this EQ. So up the high end here, we can use this. If we click and hold this node, we can boost the high frequencies. We can cut the high frequencies. And this is what's known as a shelf EQ pattern. So everything above a certain frequency will be boosted. And if you're not really following along with these terms, I'll show you what I mean when we listen to it in just a moment. We can boost or cut the mid frequencies, and we can choose the center frequency for that. This is a bell curve, and we also have a shelf EQ down the bottom. Let's have a listen to what happens when I cut the high frequencies. So the sound becomes slightly softer, takes some of the edge out of the sound. If I was to boost that, a lot more treble, it becomes a lot more buzzy and it cuts through a lot more. This is what boosting the mid frequencies might sound like, and I'm going to sweep around. So you can really mold the tone of the sound, or you can cut
That's pretty cool.
the problem frequency out.
I don't know if I got an ear for that though, but
Now you can see I have this analyzer engaged, which is really handy. This gives you a visual representation of the frequencies that make up a sound. So if you're having trouble using your ears, you can switch this on and it will give you a visual clue as to where some of the frequencies are building up in this sound. So we can see there's a build up there around 500 Hertz. We might want to just cut that out a tiny bit to balance out the sound a little bit more. So that's how you use this fairly basic equalizer, but it can be really handy, especially if you want to soften. I'm going to just soften the top end of this actually. I'm going to keep those mids. Let's have a listen to that. There we go. I like that. Okay, so the last area that we can look at on the track controls is the master effects. And we have used some of this echo and reverb on some of our sounds already. If I was to get rid of this echo and reverb, you'd hear the sound becomes a lot drier and there's no kind of ambience to it. So this is more reverb, more echo.
more echo.
You can actually change the master effects. So if I click on the master effects, we can change the type of echo, but be warned, if you change it here, it will change it for all the other tracks as well. So let's try some of these different echoes. Let's try a quarter note echo and listen to what that sounds like. Let's try a triplet.
All right, those are pretty weak.
Dark eighth note. I like that. That's a good one. Okay, so we can also change the reverb. If I go back to the master effects, let me go here and collapse that echo menu, and we can choose a different reverb. We have the default reverb now, but we can do something like a club, large hall, medium hall. Let's try a cathedral. This will be a lot bigger and more ambient.
Okay.
Okay, let's try a club. You can hear that has a shorter reverb tail. The reverb time is slower. Let's try Moon Dome. I'm assuming this is going to be really big. Wow, that reverb tail sounds like it's about 10 seconds long to me. Okay, so I'm going to dial these effects down and let's have a listen to how these have affected our entire mix. I'm going to have to scroll up to take this track off of mute. Let's have a listen now.
Yeah.
Okay, because I've changed that master effect to a really big, this Moon Dome sound, it's kind of washed out my entire mix. So I'm just going to switch that back to cathedral, see if that sounds a bit better. That's much better. That suits the track a lot more. So those are all the features of the track controls.
Next up, we got Apple Loops, baby.
It's time to have a look at the Apple Loops browser. And we've created the majority of this track with our own performances and using smart instruments and drum sequences. But there are a bunch of pre-recorded loops that Apple have included with the GarageBand for iPhone and iPad app. And we can have a look at all of those by using this icon right here in the track view. Let's click on that. Now you can see here that this is where we're basically...
Let me add a little sample in because, you know, play is going to play. Hey. I think I'm going to go up a little. And then we'll go.
This is me just learning a song. 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 When I get super funky on the beat, so unique, I'll be like, yo, Musicbi, stomping your feet, stopping your rice, nori, and the spam, man. In the song, yes I am. This is me just learning a song. 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 When I get super funky on the beat.
You can hear those haze in there, baby. Let's see what it looks like. Yeah, that's what it looks like. Let's add a little bit more compression. All right, now we got all that shit in there. We're ready for the Apple poops.
All of those by using this icon right here in the track view. Let's click on that. Now you can see here that this is where we're basically going to bring in pre-recorded loops, which we can use in our song, and we can bring them in from up the top here, either the Apple loops, the files, or the music. So that music will be your iTunes library. The files will be any downloads you've made. But the Apple loops have a very high quality control, and they also have a lot of metadata that you can have a look at to see whether it will fit your song or not. So you can just browse the entire library, although it is very large. So the blue items there, those indicate a little waveform. I'll just let that slow down. These blue waveforms indicate that it's an audio loop. There are some green items and gold items. The green item will indicate that it's actually a software instrument loop. It's MIDI data. So we could load that up and then change the instrument if we liked. And these gold ones right here, they are preset loops made for a drummer track. So you can click on one of these to have a listen. Just tap on it. So at the moment we have all sorts of different instrument loops, drum loops, and you'll see here on the right hand side, it will tell you how many bars are in that loop. And you can also hit this heart icon here to favorite that sound to easily find it a bit later on. Now, the way that I generally use Apple loops, I tend to not use many loops that are pre-included with any piece of software, because I immediately know that all the other people who are using that software also have access to those loops. So I run into the danger of having my songs sounding like everyone else's. I really value my own sound design. However, they can be really handy if you're just looking for a little sound or a little something like a tambourine or something that's not as easily recognizable, so that you can just add an extra layer to your song if you feel it needs something. And I tend to use the browser here So we can see there's instruments, genres, and descriptors. So if I click on instruments, it will now let me search by certain parameters. So we can go genre here, so we can choose what genre it's been tagged as. And these descriptors here, they are also ways, so if we're looking for something that's acoustic, and we go back here, and we go to genre, and we say we want that to be acoustic, and let's see if there's folk. Let's try country. This might give me, and then if I select perhaps guitars, this might give me some acoustic guitars, or oh, here we go, mandolin. So there are some dobros. So to clear those searches, we just click on this again. And if I click on where it says acoustic, I can deselect that. And then if I go in here where I've selected country, I can also deselect that and go in and deselect guitars. And then I'll be right back to a fresh search. So I'm going to search for tambourine. And let's just see if it can find it just by the first few letters. Let's see what that's come up with here. It's quite quiet, but that might be nice in my song. Let's see if there's anything else here.
Yes, I am. This is me just
I don't mind that one. So if I want to bring this in, load this into my track, I simply hold my finger down on the name, and you'll see now I can drag this up and it will ask me where I want to put that. I want to place that now on a new track underneath. It will create a drummer track for me. Let's have a listen to see if this fits in with the song. Okay, I can't hear that very well, so I'm going to go to the track controls to just bring down the volumes of some of the other instruments just a tiny bit. And then I'm also going to bring the volume of that one up a bit and maybe give it a little bit more compression and treble to see if I can get it to cut through a bit more.
Check it. Get it on the record. I'll be like, yo, man, your neck,
Okay,
you
that's
best protect
sounding
it.
not
I'll
too
be
bad,
like,
but
yo.
if I want to edit that, I can always, because this is a drummer
It says
track, I
supposed
can
to be
click on this
24
icon here.
frames, but it's 10.5
And
actual.
I'll collapse these track controls, and I can then edit that loop because
11
it's
actual.
not an audio
When
loop,
I
it's a
start
drummer
talking,
loop.
it starts
I can change.
dropping. Maybe if I
whether
don't have the
there's
camera
some drum
on,
fills.
it'll go up.
I can also, we've covered this in a previous video, the drummer. I
Yeah,
can make
just a
this
little bit.
louder and more complex. Let's
Okay.
see what that does now. I can even add in some more elements. I can add in hand clap.
Yeah.
Beautiful. So if I wanted to actually grab a audio loop, I'm going to go back out to that track view. So now I've got a drummer loop there. I can just simply go straight back to that Apple Loops library. And let's now search for a brand new search. I'm going to search by genre, and I'm going to go funk. And I'm going to see if there's any special effects that I can include in this. Okay, so that's a bit of a riser. Let's see if I can use that. I'm going to drag that up, drop it on a new track. And then it's looped that automatically for me. I only want to use that once. There we go. I'm just going to trim that and I'm going to use it to build up to this middle section
That's what I'm
here.
talking about,
And I'm
baby.
also going to make sure that it's not too loud by using the track controls. So sometimes when you have a build-up like that, it can be nice to have an instrument that's not in the track beforehand, and then it gets added in. So you kind of build up and then have a change. I've just noticed that that loop needs to be trimmed a bit better. Whenever I use a riser, I like to have some kind of a cymbal or something that pops off after that. So let's see if I can go to the Apple Loops and find some kind of a cymbal. Let's see if I can find a crash. Let's see if they have any crash cymbals. car crash. That one might work. Let's give that a go. So you can see how you can use these Apple loops to just add in some extra elements to your compositions to make them more interesting. Okay. I think this is going to work. Let's have a listen. That works quite well. It just needs a little bit of mixing to bring down the volume of both of those. But I think that's going to create a nice little A and B section to this very short 8-bar arrangement.
A and B, baby.
We're now reaching the business end of this course. We're almost finishing this short piece of music.
The business
and
end?
by
Is
now
that
you
British
should have
for
a really
end?
good idea of how you can create your own music in GarageBand for the iPhone and the iPad. But one thing we haven't really covered is that our song is only 8 bars long. In real time, that's probably somewhere between 10 and 20 seconds, depending on the beats per minute. We want to be able to do some arranging on our song because most released songs are usually a lot longer than 10 to 20 seconds.
Okay.
So we have a 4-bar introduction here, a nice little build-up that we've created, and then we have 4 bars of the actual track. I actually want this section to be a bit longer, so I can go to this little plus icon right here on the top right-hand corner. And this is where we access the song sections. So this current section, I want it to be a bit longer. I want this to actually be, I'm going to manually do this, 1, 2, 3, 4. So I want this to be 12 bars in length. And then you'll see it's automatically stretched out and looped the things that were already looped. So it's kind of a little bit intuitive. It guesses at what you might want to do.
Okay.
But I also want this section here to be looped. So I'm going to do that. And I want this section to be looped as well. So I'm going to double click on that and select loop and here as well. So let's have a quick listen to what we've got so far. So then that 4 bars that we just listened to will now repeat because I've made this section a bit longer. But we can add more than one section. So we might call this the introduction or the verse or something along those lines. And then we can hit this plus button again. And instead of changing the length of this section, we can either duplicate that section or add a brand new section. If I add a section, it defaults to 8 bars in length, and I can hit the little info icon right there to manually change the length of that. But if I select done, you'll now notice that we can't really see any of the regions that we had, apart from it's automatically looped some of these drummer regions. So to get back to the section A, I swipe towards there and you'll see that little A there. And then once I've swiped a little bit, I can push it a bit further and it will click over to that first section. And I do the same. I swipe there and then flick it and it will go back to this section.
Swipe or no swiping?
I can delete this section if I like by going back to the song sections with that plus and selecting edit. Under edit, I can delete a section, or I can also grab and hold and move it. So let's do a little bit of arranging. Let's duplicate this section right here. So it'll be section A and B, and I'll select done. So now section A and B are exactly the same. Now I'm going to make section A only 4 bars long, and I'll call that the introduction. So I'll go back to this plus icon right here, and I will hit this little I, the info, and I'll change this to 4 bars. So now I have the introduction right here, which is 4 bars in length. And if I swipe right, Now I have section B. And another way that I can switch between sections is just going back to the song section menu with the plus. And I can just tap on section B twice and it will take me there. So now that section A is the introduction, I want to do a little bit of cleaning up here and get rid of the introduction from this part of the song section. So I'm going to delete these regions because I don't need them. And then I'm going to drag these other regions back to the start like this. And then I can make this 8 bars long with the song section menu. So hit this little info there again and make this 8 bars. Now I've got 4-bar intro and an 8-bar verse. I can go ahead and create another section if I like by duplicating that section there. And then I could change this section here. This could be the chorus and I could make some alterations or add in some new things here. And if I want to see my entire track, all I do is go back to the song section menu and select all sections. And then that will show me everything I've got on the one screen. So that's a little bit about arranging and using the song sections to create a full track. In this video, we're going to have a bit more of an in-depth look at how we can edit regions. We've got 3 different regions we're looking at on the screen now. We've got some audio regions. We've got a drummer track region or a drummer region. We've also got a software instrument region, which is normally called a MIDI region. So I'm going to actually go to the Apple Loops browser right here. And I'm going to try and find some kind of a 2 or 4 bar drum loop. Let's go to genres here and I'm going to see if I can find a funk drum loop. I'm going to go to instruments and let's go all drums. Let's see what I can find here. Okay, I like this one here. Throwback Funk Beat 1. I'm going to hit the little heart there and pop that in my favorites. So if I pop my finger down on the name there and hold it, and then start to just move that around, I can find a spot where I can pop that in. I'm going to throw that on a new track. Okay, so it's automatically looped that for me, which I do not want. I'm going to click once on the track, on the region rather, and then I can trim that all the way down to the original length. If I click off of there, you'll see that that loop little edge there has gone away. And when I click on it again, it's just a trim tool. Let's solo this track by using the track controls, which we looked at in a previous video. Here we go. And I'm going to zoom in a little bit, just using my fingers, 2 fingers to squeeze that out. So we have an extra option when we double click on this region, which we haven't looked at before, and that is the ability to split this into 2. And we have to pop the playhead where we want this to be split. We double click on the region and we select split. Now I pop my finger down on that scissors icon and drag it down. It's now chopped that. So now we have 2 separate regions. This is really handy if we've imported external drum loops, or we like the first half and we want to loop that, but we don't like the second half. We can also delete that if we like. There are some other options here under, well, first, before I go into settings, we've already looked at loop. Now we've looked at split. Cut, copy, and delete are fairly straightforward. We can rename this region, and I can call this Funk Beat A section, or I can maybe call it verse. Now I can start naming some of my regions, and it just makes it a lot easier when I'm arranging. When I double click on it and select settings, we have a whole new menu item that comes up here. We can do all sorts of things. Now, this is one of my favorite features in a lot of digital audio workstations, and it's only come in the last 3 or 4 years, is the ability to alter the gain of individual audio clips. I just love this because I might have a clip and then it's just a little bit too loud. There's 2 clips on the same track, and rather than going in and using automation, which we will look at in a later video, I just quickly want to bring this down a couple of decibels. And this is a great way to give it a little boost or a little cut in audible volume of that region there. So looping we can do from here as well if we want to loop that, but I tend to just do that from the main track view. Follow tempo and pitch is select settings. We have my regions, and it just makes it a lot easier when I'm arranging. When I double click on it and select settings, we have a whole new menu item that comes up here. We can do all sorts of things. Now, this is one of my favorite features in a lot of digital audio works, and using automation, which we will look at in a later video. I just quickly want to bring this down a couple of decibels. And this is a great way to give it a little boost or a little cut in audible volume of that region there. So looping we can do from here as well if we want to loop that, but I tend to just do that from the main track view. Follow tempo and pitch is a item where if we do a global transpose or we change the beats per minute, a lot of the Apple loops will actually follow along. If you don't want them to follow along with the pitch or the tempo, you can switch that off. We can transpose the audio up as many semitones as we like, or down. Well, probably about an octave would be as much as you want to go. Let's see how far it will actually let me go. Never tried. So 1 octave is as far as it will actually let me. So you not only can you transpose MIDI, you can transpose audio, although it uses a pitch changing algorithm to do that. So it will sound a little bit funny, especially if you're using a voice or a drum sample or something like that. When you pitch it up and down, it will sort of degrade a little bit in quality. We can also speed up the loop. We can make it 2 times or half time. Let's listen to what that is like in half time. Because we've gone to half the speed, this region now should be twice as long. And there we go. So it was originally just a bar long. Now it takes up 2 bars, and we'll have a quick listen there. You can hear, this is what I'm talking about. It tends to sound a bit funny when you stretch it out. It does sound a lot better in the other direction when you double the speed. Let's have a listen. So this can be fun for experimenting with various genres of music. So we can also reverse this region, audio region. Have a listen to that. A lot of fun to be had with reverse effects, especially on vocal and instrument, well, any kind of sound really. So a lot of these things will apply to the software instrument regions. Let's go up to one of the MIDI regions that we have up here, the software instrument regions. I can pop my playhead, say right here. I can split that, I can rename it, and I do have these settings here as well. You'll notice that we have some different settings because this is a MIDI region. We have the overall global velocity we can change up and down. Looping we've looked at. We can change the quantization from this menu. We can also do the double speed or half speed and the reverse like we did with the audio. However, with the MIDI, it's not really going to degrade or make it sound funny because it's just going to change the rate at which we're triggering those software instruments. So that's a lot more you can do. You can have a lot of control over your arranging when you're getting towards the end of your song creation process. And that's an in-depth look at regions.
Good job. All right, let me just see.
When I get super funky on the beat, so unique, I'll be like. When I get super funky on the beat, so unique, I'll be like, yo, Musicbi, stomping your feet, stomping your rice, nori, and the spam, man. In that song, yes I am.
All right, I think we got a little. Let's play the whole thing and see what we got. We did that little intro thing, and okay, it's kind of catchy.
Super funky on the beat, so unique. I'll be like, yo, Musicbi, stomping your feet, stomping your rice, nori, and the spam, man. In that song, yes I
am. Yeah, whatever. Even if it sucks, that was fucking fun. All right, 2 more videos, guys. 2 more videos, and
now
then we did this
finished
course.
Our song, it's time to export our track. And we have a number of different options. We can export it as an audio file, such as an MP3 or WAV file. That way we can upload it to SoundCloud or send it to a friend to listen to. We can even save it as a ringtone for our iPhone. And we can export the project so it can be opened up on the GarageBand for Mac application. You can even open it up in Logic Pro X if you own that. And you can send it to another iPhone or an iPad. So to do this, we just select the downward facing arrow on the top left-hand corner, and we go to My Songs. Earlier on in this course, in one of the first few videos, we looked at how we could rename our song. And I haven't even named this one yet, so I'm going to click and hold down on that, and I'm going to rename this. Let's call this course beat, since we've made it throughout this course, and then I'm going to click Done. And you'll know from the early on in the course that we have these 2 tabs along the bottom here. We have Recent and Browse. We need to make sure we are in the Browse so that we can now see this Select up here. When we hit Select, we can select the song that we want to export. In this case, it's Course Beat. Now along the bottom here, we have a new menu that has appeared. To export the song, we hit the furthermost left icon. To copy the song, we hit this little icon right here. We can move it to a different folder, such as our iCloud drive or our Dropbox, or even to a different folder within the Files app on our iPhone. We can delete it, and we can select this icon here to select Copy. So we can copy it and paste it somewhere else. That's the project at this stage. To bring up the menu for the export options, we're going to click this icon right here. And then we can choose from one of 3 options. This option right here will create an audio file. The middle one will create a ringtone. And the one on the right will export the project. Let's first have a look at ringtone. This is a nice little option. And it's going to tell me that a ringtone must be 30 seconds or less. So if I hit continue, it's going to prompt me to name the ringtone. And when I hit this export button, it's going to export that, and then it will be available to select as a ringtone on my iPhone. We're not going to do that right now. I'm going to select this file option. And now we can export our song as an audio file. I would never use low or medium quality. Those are very low and very degraded. They'll be small files, but it will sound quite terrible. I always use highest quality because with the technology we have these days, we have plenty of storage space. It'll be slightly bigger file size, but there's really no issues using highest quality. High or high quality are the only ones I ever use. That will create an M4A, which is Apple's version of the MP3 file. It's a much smaller file size, but you do lose a little bit of the audio quality when you do that. You can also select Apple lossless or an uncompressed AIFF or WAV file. These are full quality uncompressed, but the file size will be about 10 times bigger. So with a lossy format such as the M4A, when we select high quality or highest quality, a 3-minute song will be around 2 or 3 megabytes, maybe 4 or 5 at max. When you select the uncompressed WAV file, your song might be anywhere from 70 megabytes to over 100 megabytes. So you have to be careful. If you're exporting it as an uncompressed format, you may run into problems sending that in an email or saving that if you have limited storage space. You can change the artist and composer and album info. You can even select a photo, which will be embedded in the metadata. You can't do this for the uncompressed versions. You'll see if I select those, I now have these items grayed out. We can only select an image and edit the metadata for the M4A version of the files. Here we go. So then I can go in and I can change this by clicking on it. I can edit this and I can choose a photo from my Photos app on my phone.
Okay.
So when I select share, it's going to prompt me to select where I want that audio file to go. I can airdrop it straight to my Mac, which is a handy option. I can send it in a message to somebody. And depending on which apps you have installed on your iPhone, you could Gmail it, Dropbox it to somebody. You could save it to your Files app on your phone so you can transfer it later. And then if you add tags, this will just add some little colored dots, like on the Mac files, if you have a red dot or a green dot or a yellow dot to help organize your files. For the moment, I'm just going to save this to my Files app on my phone, and it will bring up this exporting menu. Depending on how long your song is, this can take anywhere from a few seconds up to a minute, depending on how many tracks you have in your song and how long your song is. If I were to select the project item from this menu here, it would bring up that exact same menu that I was just at, where I could airdrop it or send it via email. The project file will vary on size depending on how many audio files you've used. The software instruments tend to use a lot less because the MIDI files are very small, but the audio is what's going to be large here. So have fun and experiment with exporting your song in all kinds of different formats until you find something that works best for you. A big congratulations to anybody who's reached this far in the course. This is the final video, and I hope you've enjoyed all the content delivered to help you improve your music production skills using GarageBand for iPhone and iPad. If you haven't already, I'd love to invite you to subscribe to this YouTube channel where you will receive daily content on music production tips based around GarageBand for Mac and for iOS. And if you want to take your music production skills to the next level, I will leave some links in the description to this video to point you to some further education on GarageBand for Mac. And I've also just recently started a mentorship program where I'll be taking on students, and for a monthly intake, you can join my mentorship program and I will teach you how to mix, master, release your music. You can have direct access to me via Skype and email, and I can train you to be a professional music producer. So thank you so much, and I'll see you in the next video.
Let's check out the studio hacks. Is he a hack? Well, it looks like he's getting into some AI videos. Let's check out the videos. AI, only boys can hear this new fun with audio frequencies. $200 per day, easy way. The best times to post YouTube shorts in 2022. Transcription, unlimited YouTube views. How to make relaxing sound videos for YouTube. Make videos from articles. Pictory AI. Best affiliate programs. This is Ableton. Travis Barker. Looks like this guy's trying to make all kinds of videos. How to get more views on old YouTube videos. I don't know, man. This guy's not having that many views. How to upload YouTube shorts from PC. Oh, this one has 48,000 views. How to convert. How to turn a screen recording into an MP3 on an iPhone. Oh, that's kind of cool. All right. Well, check out Studio Hacks. That was a course. And that's the end of this video because I got to do a new video. And we'll see you when I see you. All right. Big gulps, huh? Peace.